The Discovery, the silent drifter, Marcus Kane, wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished calibrating the asteroid mining station's primary drill. The work was repetitive, but it paid well enough to keep him comfortable on the edge of known space. At 35, Kane had earned a reputation as one of the best engineers in the outer colonies. His weathered hands moved with practiced precision across the control panels, each motion born from years of experience fixing things that others had given up on. The mining station, designation Omega-7, floated in the asteroid belts between Mars and Jupiter. It was a lonely place, inhabited by only 12 people who worked 6-month rotations. Kane preferred it that way. After losing his family in the colony wars 5 years ago, he had sought solitude among the stars. Here, surrounded by floating rocks and endless space, he could work in peace without the constant reminders of what he had lost. The communications array crackled to life, interrupting his thoughts. "Kane, we've got something on the long-range sensors," came the voice of Sarah Chen, the station's operations manager. "Unknown vessel, approximately 2 kilometers out and drifting. No response to our hails." Kane set down his tools and made his way to the observation deck. Through the reinforced viewport, he could see a dark shape against the starfield. Even at this distance, he could tell it wasn't human in origin. The vessel's design was too organic, too flowing, like it had been grown rather than built. "Could be a derelict," Kane said into his comm unit. "Plenty of those floating around since the trade wars started." "Maybe," Sarah replied, "but the power readings are strange. It's not completely dead, but whatever's keeping it running is failing fast. We should probably report it to the authorities." Kane considered this. The nearest patrol would take weeks to arrive, and by then the vessel might drift into the asteroid field and be destroyed. Something about the situation bothered him. The ship looked damaged but not destroyed, as if it had been running on emergency power for a long time. "I'll take the repair shuttle and have a look," Kane decided. "If it's salvageable, we might be able to tow it to a safe orbit." Sarah's voice carried concern. "Marcus, we don't know what's on that ship. It could be dangerous." Kane was already heading for the shuttle bay. "I'll be careful. Besides, when has fixing broken things ever gotten me into trouble?" First contact 20 minutes later, Kane's shuttle approached the alien vessel. Up close, it was even more impressive. The hull seemed to shimmer with an inner light, though many sections were dark and obviously damaged. The ship was roughly the size of a small frigate, but its curves and flowing lines made it look like a piece of art rather than a machine. Kane maneuvered his shuttle to dock with what appeared to be an airlock. His scanner showed atmosphere on the other side, though the readings were odd. The air contained elements he didn't recognize, but it seemed breathable for humans. "Shuttle to Omega-7, Kane reported. "I'm preparing to board the vessel. Atmosphere reads safe, and I'm detecting minimal life support power." "Copy that, Marcus. Be careful in there." Kane suited up in his lightweight EVA gear, more as a precaution than necessity. His scanner indicated the ship's atmosphere was stable, but he had learned to trust his equipment over his instincts. The airlock cycled without incident, and Kane stepped into the alien vessel. The interior was breathtaking. The corridors curved gently, following the ship's organic design. Soft, bioluminescent panels provided dim lighting, though many were flickering or dark. Everything seemed to be made from a material that looked like polished wood but felt as strong as steel when Kane touched it. He followed the main corridor. Toward what his scanner indicated was the ship's power core. Along the way, he passed several chambers that might have been living quarters or workspaces. The furniture, if it could be called that, was clearly designed for beings different from humans. Everything was slightly too tall and too narrow, suggesting the ship's builders were similar to humans but more elongated. The power core chamber was a circular room at the ship's center. The core itself was a crystal formation that pulsed with weak blue light. Kane had never seen anything like it, but his engineering instincts told him it was dying. Whatever exotic energy source powered, the crystal was nearly depleted. As he studied the alien technology, trying to understand how it worked, Kane noticed something that made his heart skip a beat. Hidden among the flowing alien script etched into the walls was a single word in English: hope. Kane stared at the word, his mind racing. How could human writing be on an alien ship? The letters looked fresh, not ancient, as if they had been carved recently. He reached out to touch the word, and the moment his fingers made contact, the ship came alive. The awakening light flooded the chamber as the crystal core pulsed brighter. Systems throughout the ship began humming back to life, and Kane felt a gentle vibration through the deck plates. Emergency lighting activated in the corridors, and the air circulation system began working at full capacity. "What the hell?" Kane muttered, pulling his hand back from the wall. Then he heard it. A voice, soft and melodic, speaking in a language he didn't understand. But somehow, impossibly, he could comprehend the meaning. "The Guardian has returned," the voice said. "The Covenant is remembered." Kane spun around, looking for the source of the voice. "Who's there? Show yourself." A section of the far wall began to glow, and slowly a figure materialized from what Kane now realized was some kind of stasis chamber. The being that emerged was humanoid but clearly alien. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow with inner light. Her features were elongated but beautiful, with large eyes that held depths of intelligence and sadness. The alien woman looked at Kane with wonder and hope. When she spoke, her voice carried the musical quality he had heard before, but now he could understand her words clearly. "You are human," she said, and it wasn't a question. "After all these cycles, a human has found us." Kane tried to process what was happening. "I'm Marcus Kane, engineer from the mining station Omega-7. Who are you? What is this ship?" The alien woman placed her hand over her heart in what seemed to be a gesture of greeting. "I am Zara of the Velta people. This vessel is the Sanctuary, and we are refugees fleeing the great darkness that spreads across the galaxy." "Refugees from what?" Zara's expression grew grave. "The Krextha have risen again. They seek to consume all life, to turn every world into a dead monument to their hunger. We are all that remains of our people, and we carry something precious that must not fall into their hands." Kane felt a chill despite the ship's warming atmosphere. "Why were you in stasis? And how long? Have you been drifting?" "We fled our dying world 3 cycles ago in your time measurement. That would be approximately 18 months. Our power core was damaged in the escape, and we have been drifting ever since, hoping to find sanctuary." And the word on the wall, Kane pressed, "Hope," written in human language. "How is that possible?" Zara's eyes lit up with something that might have been joy. "Your people were part of the ancient covenant, the alliance of species that stood against the darkness before. A human named Kane helped my people escape the first great purge, centuries ago. He carved that word as a symbol that aid would come, when it was needed most." Kane felt the world shift around him. "Kane, that's my family name. The bloodline of the Guardians," Zara whispered. "It cannot be coincidence that you have found us. The Covenant calls to its own. Before Kane could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Zara rushed to a console that had activated along with the ship's other systems. Her face paled as she read the display. "They have found us," she said, her voice filled with dread. "The Krextha ships are approaching. We have perhaps 1 hour before they arrive." Kane's mind raced. An hour wasn't enough time to repair the ship's power core and escape, even if he understood the alien technology. "How many of your people are on this ship?" 57 souls in stasis, Zara replied. "The last of the Veiled. If we are captured, our entire species dies with us." Kane looked around the chamber, his engineer's mind already working on the problem. The ship's systems were operational but running on backup power. The main power core was still failing, and without it, they couldn't achieve the speed needed to outrun their pursuers. "What are you carrying that's so important?" Kane asked. Zara hesitated, then led him to another chamber. Inside, floating in a containment field, was a sphere of pure light. It pulsed gently, and Kane could feel its warmth even through the containment. "The life seed," Zara explained. "It contains the genetic pattern of every species the Krextha have destroyed. With it, we can restore entire worlds, bring back the dead civilizations. It is hope itself, made manifest." Kane understood now why the enemy was so determined to find this ship. This sphere represented the power to undo their work, to restore what they had destroyed. It was literally hope for the galaxy. An idea began forming in Kane's mind. It was dangerous, probably insane, but it might work. "Zara, does your ship have fabrication capabilities? Can it create new components?" "Yes, but why?" Kane was already moving, heading back to the power core chamber. "Because I'm going to do something that violates every safety protocol I know. I'm going to link your power core to my shuttle's fusion reactor. It should give us enough juice to get your ship moving." "That sounds incredibly dangerous," Zara said, following him. Kane grinned, feeling more alive than he had in years. "Lady, I've made a career out of making dangerous things work. Besides, my ancestor apparently made a promise to your people. I intend to keep it." As Kane began connecting his shuttle's power systems to the alien ship, he realized his quiet life was over. But for the first time since losing his family, he felt like he had a purpose again. The word hope seemed to glow brighter on the wall, as if approving of his choice. The real test would come when the enemy arrived. Kane just hoped his engineering skills and human stubbornness would be enough to keep that hope alive. The choice, the Guardian's legacy. Kane worked frantically to connect his shuttle's fusion reactor to the alien power core. The technology was unlike anything he had ever seen, but engineering principles were universal. Power flowed through conduits, systems needed regulation, and everything had to work in harmony or it would explode spectacularly. "The connection is holding," Zara reported from her console. "But your reactor is not designed for this kind of integration. The stress could cause a catastrophic failure." "Everything I do could cause catastrophic failure," Kane replied, his hands moving quickly across the improvised connection. "That's what makes it interesting." As the alien power core began drawing energy from the human fusion reactor, the ship's systems came fully online. The sanctuary hummed with renewed life, and Kane could feel the deck plates vibrating as the engines prepared for ignition. Zara pulled up a display showing the approaching enemy ships. 3 massive vessels, dark and angular, moved through space. like predators closing in on wounded prey. Their design was brutal and efficient, built for destruction rather than exploration. "Corrects the dreadnoughts," Zara said grimly. "Each one carries enough firepower to destroy a small moon. They will not negotiate or show mercy." Kane studied the enemy ships on the display. They were still 30 minutes away, but closing fast. "Tell me about your people's history with mine. You said a Kane helped you before." Zara led him to another chamber while the ship's systems completed their startup sequence. The walls here were covered with flowing script and images that seemed to move in the light. She touched a section of the wall, and it came alive with holographic displays. "This is the chronicle of the Covenant," Zara explained. 500 years ago, when the Krextha first rose to power, there was an alliance of 12 species. They called themselves the Guardians of Light, sworn to protect the smaller, peaceful civilizations from the darkness. The holographic display showed space battles on a scale that dwarfed anything in recent human history. Fleets of ships from different species working together, their diverse technologies complementing each other in beautiful harmony. "Humans were the engineers of the Alliance," Zara continued. "Your people had a gift for making impossible things. Work for finding solutions when others saw only problems. Captain David Kane led the evacuation of our homeworld when the Krextha came. He saved 10,000 of our people, including my ancestors." Kane watched his ancestor's face in the holographic record. The resemblance was unmistakable. The same stubborn jaw, the same determined eyes. "What happened to the Alliance?" "Internal conflicts," Zara said sadly. "Some species wanted to fight the Krextha directly, others preferred to hide. The Alliance fractured, and one by one, the member worlds fell. Humanity withdrew from galactic affairs, focusing on your own colonies. We thought you had forgotten the Covenant." "Maybe we did," Kane said. "But I haven't." An alert chimed from the ship's bridge. The Krextha were 20 minutes away, and the Sanctuary's power core was still not at full capacity. Kane's jury-rigged connection was working, but barely. "Can we outrun them?" Kane asked. Zara checked her instruments. "Not at current power levels. We need at least 80% capacity to achieve escape velocity." Kane studied the power readings. The alien technology was more efficient than anything humans had developed, but it was also more complex. He needed to understand how it worked if he was going to optimize it. "Show me the technical specifications," he said. Zara hesitated. "Our technology is sacred to us. We do not share it lightly. Lady, in 15 minutes, your sacred technology is going to be target practice for those ships. Trust me, or we all die together." Zara made a decision that would change everything. She placed her hand on a control panel, and suddenly Kane's mind was flooded with information. The alien technology wasn't just advanced, it was alive. The power core was a crystalline organism that converted matter directly into energy, guided by neural pathways that responded to the ship's needs. "It's biological," Kane breathed. "Your ship is a living thing. The Sanctuary is our partner, not our tool," Zara confirmed. "She responds to our needs, but she can also think and feel. That is why the power core is failing. She grieves for our lost world." Kane understood now. The ship wasn't just damaged, it was traumatized. The power core needed more than energy. It needed a reason to live. He thought about the word carved into the wall. "Hope." "Can you communicate with her?" Kane asked. "Of course, we are linked through the neural interface." Kane had an idea that was either brilliant or insane. Link me to her too. If she's anything like human-built machines, she needs to understand what we're trying to do. The neural link is not designed for human minds, Zara warned. It could kill you. Everything we're doing could kill me, Kane replied. But if we don't try, we're definitely going to die. The mind bridge Zara guided Kane to a chair that looked like it had grown from the ship's deck. Crystalline filaments extended from the headrest, and she carefully positioned them against Kane's temples. The moment they made contact, his consciousness exploded outward. Kane found himself in a vast space filled with light and music. The ship's intelligence was there, ancient and vast, but wounded. He could feel her pain, her despair at the loss of the Velta homeworld. She had carried refugees before, but never so few, never the absolute last of a species. "Hello, Sanctuary," Kane said, his voice echoing in the mental space. "I'm Marcus Kane. I'm here to help." The ship's consciousness turned toward him, curious. She had never encountered a human mind before, but something about Kane felt familiar. Deep in her memory cores, she found records of another Kane, another human who had helped in a time of darkness. "The bloodline remembers," Sanctuary said, her voice like wind through crystal. "You carry the Guardian's gift." "Maybe I do," Kane replied, "but right now, I need your help. Those ships out there want to destroy everything you're protecting. We need to work together." Sanctuary showed him her pain, the damage to her power core, the exhaustion from months of running on minimal power. She was dying, slowly but surely, and she had accepted that fate. "I know it hurts," Kane said gently. "I lost my family too. I wanted to give up, to just stop trying. But someone wise once told me that as long as we're alive, there's still hope." He showed her the life seed, the sphere of genetic patterns that could restore destroyed worlds. "This isn't just about surviving. It's about making sure that hope lives on. But I need you to trust me." Kane began sharing his technical knowledge with the ship, showing her how human fusion reactors worked, how they could be modified and improved. In return, Sanctuary shared her biological engineering, the way her crystalline matrix could be reconfigured to accept new forms of energy. Together, human stubbornness and alien grace began to work miracles. The battle for Hope the Crexter ships dropped out of hyperspace just as Kane and Sanctuary completed their modifications. The power core was now operating at 120% of normal capacity, drawing energy from both the ship's biological systems and Kane's fusion reactor. "Impossible," Zara whispered as she watched the power readings. "The core should not be able to sustain those levels." "It's not just the core anymore," Kane explained, disconnecting from the neural interface. "It's a hybrid system. Human engineering and Velta biotechnology working together." The lead Crexter ship opened communications, its message broadcast. In harsh, clicking tones, Sanctuary translated automatically. "Surrender the life seed, and your deaths will be swift. Resist, and we will take it from your corpses." Kane moved to the Sanctuary's weapon controls. The ship wasn't heavily armed, but it had defensive systems. "Can we fight them? 3 dreadnoughts against 1 damaged courier ship." Zara shook her head. "It would be suicide." "Maybe," Kane said, studying the tactical display. "But they're not expecting us to fight back. They think we're helpless refugees." An idea was forming, dangerous and desperate, but it might work. Kane activated his comm system, broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Marcus Kane aboard the Velta vessel. Sanctuary. I'm calling all human ships in the area. We have refugees under attack by hostile forces. I repeat, civilians under attack. Within minutes, responses came flooding in. 3 mining ships, 2 cargo haulers, and a patrol craft all reported their positions. They were scattered across the asteroid belt, too far away to provide immediate help, but close enough to serve Kane's purpose. All human vessels, this is Kane. I need you to power up your reactors and prepare for emergency thrust. We're going to show these bastards what happens when you threaten refugees. The Krexter ships began their attack run, energy weapons charging. Kane waited until the last possible moment, then activated his plan. Sanctuary, execute pattern, Canalpha. The alien ship suddenly split into 7 apparent copies, each one broadcasting the same energy signature. The holographic projections were powered by the ship's enhanced systems, creating perfect decoys that were indistinguishable from the real vessel. The Krexter fired at all 7 targets, their weapons striking 6 empty illusions and missing the real ship entirely. In the confusion, the human vessels in the asteroid belt began broadcasting on wide frequencies, creating a sensor network that made it impossible for the enemy to lock onto the real sanctuary. Impossible, the Krexter commander snarled over the com. The refugees have no weapons capable of this deception. They don't, Kane replied, bringing the sanctuary about for another pass, but I do. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. 1 refugee ship, powered by hybrid technology and protected by holographic decoys, danced through an asteroid field while 3 massive warships tried to destroy it. The human ships in the area provided sensor cover and distraction, their crews, inspired by Kane's desperate stand. But the real victory came when Kane transmitted the Chronicle of the Covenant to every human ship in the system. The holographic records showed the ancient alliance, the role humans had played as guardians and protectors. It showed what they had once been and what they could be again. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the mining vessel Deep Core," came a voice over the com. "All human vessels, form up on the sanctuary. We're not letting these monsters hurt innocent people." One by one, the human ships moved to protect the sanctuary. They were miners and traders, not warriors, but they had seen the records. They understood what was at stake. The Krexter found themselves facing not 1 refugee ship, but an entire fleet of humans willing to die to protect others. It was a spirit they had not encountered in centuries, the same determination that had once forged the ancient alliance. "Fall back," the Krexter commander finally ordered. "This system is more heavily defended than our intelligence indicated." As the enemy ships retreated, Kane felt something he hadn't experienced in years: pride, not in his engineering skills or his clever tactics, but in his species. Humanity had remembered what it meant to be guardians. New beginnings, 3 days. Later, Kane stood in the sanctuary's main chamber, watching as the last of the Valta refugees emerged from stasis. They were a beautiful people, tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to glow with inner light. Each one who saw him bowed deeply, recognizing the human who had saved them. "The Covenant is restored," Zara said, joining him at the observation port. "The other human ships have agreed to escort us to a safe system. Some of their crews want to learn about our technology to help us build new worlds." Kane nodded, watching the small fleet of human ships maintaining protective formation. Around the sanctuary, it's not going to be easy. The Krexter won't give up, and there are a lot of species out there who need help. "The ancients understood that," Zara replied. "That is why they formed the alliance. No single species can stand against the darkness alone. Kane touched the wall where the word hope was carved. The letters seemed to glow brighter now, as if responding to the renewed purpose flowing through the ship. My ancestors started something here, Kane said. I think it's time to finish it. Over the following months, word spread through human space about the ancient covenant and humanity's role as guardians. Young engineers and scientists applied to join the new alliance. Veterans of the colony wars found purpose in protecting refugee ships. The life seed became a symbol of restoration and hope. The sanctuary became the flagship of a new fleet. Human and alien ships working together to evacuate threatened worlds and establish safe colonies. Kane found himself admiral of a force dedicated to the same principles his ancestor had fought for centuries before. The word carved into the ship's hull had indeed changed everything. It had awakened not just the ship's systems, but humanity's forgotten role in the galaxy. Kane often wondered if his ancestor had known that a single word could carry such power. As the fleet prepared for another rescue mission, Kane stood on the sanctuary's bridge, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the Krexter were planning their next move, but they would find that the galaxy had guardians again, and this time, hope would not be easily extinguished. The covenant was restored, and the darkness would find no easy victories among the stars.